Are we good? Hey, good afternoon. My name is Jimmy Duckham. I'm the Chief of Police at Ball State University. I want to welcome you to our campus. We're really excited to have you here. I'm really excited to present this training, talk a little bit about the Ball State Police Department, and kick the semester off right. But before we do anything, I want to introduce Corporal Stevens. He's going to be doing with me. And today is his birthday. All right? All right? So it's going to be a great day. So I want to talk a little bit about the Ball State Police Department, okay? And hopefully some of you got to meet me during orientation and got to meet our officers during orientation. But I'm going to be that cool teacher right now. Everybody always tells you to take and put your phones away. I want you to take your phones out right now, all right? I want you to go to bsu.edu/prepared. And if you haven't signed up for our text messaging, I want you to do it right now. And we're going to show you a little video real quick of how to do that. Well, that would be a problem, right? So when we all get out of here, that's what we'll do, right? Because I'm sure most of you guys are signed up for the text messaging. If you're having a problem right now, tells you how to do it, shows you pretty easily. All right, so when you get out of here and the Wi-Fi's better, we really want you to do that. We have a really robust emergency notification system here. Text messaging is one of the things that we use predominantly, along with email, the TV screens that are in all of like the dining facilities and at sports and wellness when you're working out, as well as the call boxes in your classrooms. So we test the system regularly. On Friday, you'll see stuff like this in the student center or at Worthing when you're working out or when you're trying to order a meal and getting really mad because the menu went down for 2 seconds. You know, but it's a way so we know that the system works. And that's part of our commitment to keep you safe, because we're about safety here. And safety involves this entire community, not just the police department, right? So we want to talk a little bit about some of our community policing stuff. Bike registration. Show of hands, how many people have bikes here? Come on, get them up. I know more of you got them. How many have registered them? Okay. We want you to register your bikes. When we first started registering bikes, we had like 30 bikes registered a year. That's pretty lame, right? Last year, we were well over 400. That really helps us get bikes back to you should it get lost or stolen. And so if it's registered with us, we can return it. So that's a really important thing for you to do. The form's really pretty easy. Serial number. And you can submit it online. We're going to have a bunch of community policing type bike registration events this year. There's Corporal Stevens last year registering a bike at our Dunkin' Cop event. We do pizza at the bike rack. We'll chase some of you around on our golf cart to pull you over to try to get you to register your bike. We kind of try to make our crime prevention and our community policing events fun and interesting, okay? This is not how to use a U-boat lock on a bike, okay? But there's more, okay? Another one, not how to use the U-boat lock on your bike. So we really recommend people get U-boat locks, because the small, thin wire ones are easily defeated, but we've really been pretty successful. Who here likes free food? I'm all about it. My cops are starving for lunch. If you sign up for lunch with a cop, I will take one of you and 3 of your friends to lunch in an on-campus dining facility, and my officers will have that lunch with you, right? Totally free for you. You're going to be out of meal money sometime. I know it. So do it and make my cops full. They are hungry. They need you to sign up. 1,500 students to date have done this program. It's a really great opportunity for you to get to know our officers and our officers to get to know you. You can probably tell from my accent that I did most of my adult life and my law enforcement career in New York. I was blessed to be the, thank you, all right? I was blessed to be the commanding officer of the Community Affairs Unit. And I really, truly know in my heart of hearts, you can't police a community until you're part of that community. And we really, really try hard here to do those type of community policing engagement activities with our student body. This is one of our events, tacos at the 5-0. You're noticing a pattern here, free food, cops come, you know, so that's what we want to do. Some of the other events, our Citizen Police Academy, for people that want to be involved in law enforcement, or even if you just have an interest in policing and you don't want to be a police officer, it's a really good program. It's an academy, basically 10 weeks shortened academy program on Sunday nights, where you get the opportunity to kind of engage with us and see what it would be like to be a recruit police officer, learn some of the skill sets we do. We've had students, faculty, staff, we've had people as old as 70 do it, and as young as freshmen in college. So it's a great mix of people, and so we get a lot of different perspectives and ideas. This is one of our signature events. We do Dunk a Cop. It'll be next Thursday. It's a great event. All proceeds go to Riley Children's Hospital. So bring your dollar bills so you can dunk a cop. What's it, Travis? One ball for $1 and three for $1. See, we're so good at it. We want you to 3 shots to dunk these cops. We take cash and debit cards, correct? So you'll see us out there. We're registering bikes at that event, kind of having some fun activities and stuff like that. Crime prevention. This is actual from one of our classrooms. Don't leave your stuff unattended. Certainly if you have laptops, cell phones, things like that. That's our biggest property crime here is crime prevention. Property crime is our biggest crime. This is a really safe campus and a safe campus community, but we do have some criminal behavior that happens. And these are some things you can do to help us prevent that. So today, we're here to talk about CRACE training, which is civilian response to active shooter events. Tough topic, I totally get it. But we're here to help you, to empower you, to give you some tips that we think can be really effective if that should happen. But the skill set is really transferable to anywhere you go. We've talked about RAs on medical emergencies. We've talked about simple things of scripting and practicing. What could you do in your dorm to help one of your fellow students if they should get sick? So it's the skill that we talk about is not just for active shooter events, but it's something that you can put into your everyday practices for emergency preparedness, right? So we'll start off with a video from Columbine. It's the 911 tape. And the reason we show this is to kind of show where we've come. This was like the first incident in our country. I was a police officer back when that happened. You know, I'm an old guy. I started my career in 1986. I was on a SWAT team when this happened. And our police agency would have responded exactly how that law enforcement agency said. And the teachers that were in that school that day and the students and stuff had never really had any training. Nobody had really had that happen in their environment before. So this is kind of a little bit of the 911 tape. You can hear how chaotic it is and some of the instruction that the teacher is giving to the students is what we wouldn't want to do now because we've evolved in our training and stuff. So this is really, again, an opportunity to show where we've come from, to empower you, and then we're going to talk about strategies that you guys can use to help you make yourselves safer.
Jefferson County 911.
Yes, I'm a teacher at Columbine High School. There was a student here with a gun. He had shot out a window. I believe one student shot.
I said Columbine High School.
I don't know what's in my shoulder. If it was just a last week or what.
Okay, has anybody been injured, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the school is in a panic. And I'm in the library. I've got students down under the table, kids. Hands under the table. Kids are screaming. Some of the teachers are, trying to take control of them. We need police here.
Okay, we're getting them there.
Police here.
Okay, right? Pretty scary kind of concept. And you can hear the teacher telling, I've got the kids under the table, under the desk, on the floor, right? We've totally changed from that concept of how we want to take care. You can hear the teachers talking about how we're trying to control the situation. So help is coming. People are trying to manage this situation, but you can do things to help for a better outcome. That 911 tape goes on for 4 minutes, and the shooter has not got into that library for 4 minutes. And after all is said and done, out of the 12 fatalities in Columbine, 10 of them were in the library. So we know now that 4 minutes is a lot of time that we could have done some other things and taken some countermeasures. We could avoid, right? We could deny, we could defend. So that's the video we're going to show you, Avoid, Deny, Defend. It was put on by Walmart with Texas State University. That's the concepts that we teach here. We think they're effective. We think it's easy to learn. It's applicable in all of the environments and all kinds of training scenarios and stuff. So when we play the video, it's a kind of a little corny at some point, right? You know how that is, and the music is a little corny and that, but the concepts are really good. So if you can pay attention to that, and after we see the video, we'll talk about it and go over the concepts. So without further ado.
there's a gunman inside the store. We need help now.
Everything last weekend? It was very nice, wasn't it?
Heard about this, the new system enhancement. What's going to be the solution by the time we...
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Actually think he's got an old, well, he's got a truck. I don't know if your daughter would be interested. Yeah, definitely. Now, she figured out what college she wants to go to?
We need help. There's a gunman inside the store. He's shooting the place up. We need help now.
issues that we found. Okay, Emily, see what that is. See what's going on. Just let us know what you find out.
There's a man with a gun. He's right there.
It's the wall. Lights.
Right county. There you go. You're safe for that.
This guy with the gun is shooting. Look.
James, we don't have
No, look.
Run! 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 To the right!
Right.
To the right! To the loading dock! Come on, this way, this way, this way!
Yeah. Oh, no, come here.
Yeah, in here, in here. The gunman's coming.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna have to defend ourselves.
I can't do this.
You're gonna see your daughter tonight, okay? We are all going to go home tonight, all right? We have a right to defend ourselves. Get the gun! Get the gun! Hold him down, hold him down!
Gosh, I'm just so glad you're okay.
Yes, we're all gonna go home. Everybody's going home. Yeah.
If you ever have the misfortune to be in an active shooter event, you deserve to survive. In our research, we have found that the actions that potential victims take during these events are critical to their survival. We have identified 3 options that have proven effective in many events. These are: avoid the attacker, deny the attacker access to your area, defend yourself. It is a personal decision, but you have a right to do so. Avoiding the attacker starts with being aware of your surroundings at all times and knowing what is going on around you. If you see or hear something that looks suspicious, take action. For example, the stalker took immediate and effective action to protect himself when he observed the shooter pulling out weapons from the bag. Others, however, hesitated, and this hesitation can cost them valuable time that they could have used to get away from the threat.
This is classic, that one.
If you hear something that
you gotta laugh
is,
at that one.
or could be
That is
gunfire,
classic.
start trying to get away from it as soon as possible. Gunfire has a distinctive sound. Inside of buildings, the sound can be muffled or distorted. A single loud bang could be a person dropping something, or even thunder. But repeated loud bangs are much more likely to be gunfire. Additionally, look at the reaction of others. Are they startled or scared? Are they running? What are they saying? Any one of these events individually may create denial, but when put together should create a heightened awareness and stimulate an immediate response. It is important that you know how to get out. The situation will be chaotic and rapidly changing. In general, you will want to go to the nearest exit. But you must also understand that the closest exit may not be accessible or safe to use. If this is the case, go to a different exit. While avoiding the threat, consider the uses of cover and concealment. Cover offers protection from gunfire, while concealment minimizes your exposure to the attacker. Try to keep objects between you and the attacker. If you can't avoid the attacker, sometimes the best option will be to deny the attacker access to your location. In many locations, this can be accomplished by closing and locking a door, such as they did in the meeting room. Locking the door has proven effective in many attacks. If the door does not have a lock, you can place heavy objects in front of it. Remember, barricades work best if the door opens toward you. If it doesn't, use things that are readily available, such as straps, belts, or objects that can be used to block or secure the door to make it difficult for the attacker to enter the room. This may at least slow the attacker down and give you time to identify alternate means of escape, such as adjoining rooms or windows. When attempting to deny access to your location, you want to make it appear that there is no one in your area. Lock doors, turn off the lights, silence your phones, and get out of sight. Your attempt to deny the attacker access to your location might fail.
The gunman's coming.
What are we gonna do?
We're going to have to defend ourselves.
Have a backup plan about what you will do. In many cases, this may be to defend yourself. You need to be in a place where you can act if the attacker comes into your location. In most rooms, you will line up against the same wall that the door is on, near the door so you can react, but not directly in front of it. If you are unable to avoid or deny, your best option may be to defend yourself by using whatever is available. In a situation where someone is attempting to kill you, you have the legal right to defend yourself. Attack weak spots such as eyes, throat, and groin. Fight to the best of your ability and do not quit until the attacker is stopped. This is what the workers in the warehouse did when they were unable to avoid the attacker and felt their lives were in immediate danger. Whatever option you choose, call 911 as soon as you are in a safe location. Provide any information that you know. The operator will ask you a lot of questions. If you don't know the answer, don't guess. Just say you don't know and only state the facts.
I'm not sure. There's 3 of us in the room. We're on the...
This guy with the gun is shooting.
This will be a complex situation, and we can't tell you what you should do in every case. What we can do is provide you with information about the options that we have found to be most effective for surviving these attacks. The ultimate choice is yours. What you do matters. Avoid the attacker. Deny access to your location. Defend yourself. Law enforcement will be entering a chaotic scene with limited information. Their first priority will be to stop the threat to your safety. The police may not know where or who the threat is. Listen and comply with their commands immediately.
Put it down, sir. Put it down. Both of you on the ground.
Police are trained to look at people's hands to assess threats. Do not have anything in your hands that could be perceived as a weapon, such as a cell phone.
Show me your hands, sir. Show me your hands. Move to us. Everybody, keep your hands up, please. Walk out the door.
If told to do so, stay where you are and do not make sudden movements. Again, follow all commands. Remember, what you do matters. Avoid the attacker. Deny access to your location. Defend yourself. Remember, ADD. You can survive.
Okay, just hit it. So we want to talk about a few of the concepts, right? And kind of stress things that we're all going to go through, like denial, deliberation, and our decisive moment, right? And denial is really pretty easy to figure out. And they have a little joke in here, you know. And it's true. Like, we want to believe people are basically good. We don't want to think that the sounds we're hearing are gunshots and stuff like that. So we want to look at the situation and where we are. If you're with one of your friends and you're in the admin building and you hear what you think is gunshots and they say, no, that's just fireworks, it's probably not. You know, we want to take those kind of movements. So we want to get really, really quickly past denial. And then we want to get into our deliberation. Like, what is our plan, right? What are we going to do? So a lot of it is scripting and practicing. And that's a really good concept and things that you can learn really easy. When I did this class for the RAs, we did over in Park Hall, and I asked the group, how many exits are in the room? And one young lady shot her hand up, she's like, 5. And I'm like, wow, that's the first time that ever happened to me. How did you know? She's like, when I go into a location, especially new, I always look for the exits. And they were exactly 5. And I asked her how long it took her to do that. She's like, I don't know, 3 seconds. So in 3 seconds, she had already figured out if something had happened in Park Hall, how she was going to get out. Like, and what happens normally is we all came in that front door here into the auditorium, and if something should happen, like right here by Travis, everybody will look to go out those doors, as opposed to missing these 2 exits that are right on the side. So we really like to script and practice. I drive my wife crazy because when I go to the movies, I got to sit on the end, and I want to be at a certain location. And I pay attention to the stewardess when they're telling me, you know, the exits are behind you. And I'm like, are you paying attention? She's like, hits me and says, I'm watching YouTube. Will you be quiet? You know, she's not paying attention. And I try to get her to do that stuff. So take that extra moment to think about what you would do. I mean, and put that in practice when you're in your classrooms and your dorms. If there's something on your particular hall, it doesn't have to be an active shooter. It could be a fire. It could be somebody got sick. It could be a whole host of things. You know, and I always use the example of like the atrium. Like if you're having lunch and you're at the deli and you're ordering a sandwich and all of a sudden you hear what you think is gunshots and stuff and you look out and it's chaotic in the student seating area, you don't want to run towards that, right? So maybe we go around the deli counter because that's the back warehouse kind of area, the loading dock, and that exits right out into Teachers College parking lot. Because food has to come into the facility somewhere, right? We never see it come in the front door of a building. So just think about that. Like in 5 seconds, I just gave you an alternate exit plan that you could employ in an emergency in Teachers College or the atrium or wherever you happen to be by just thinking through, like, what would I do scenarios. So we're all going to have this stress response. We're all going to be stressed out. Like, people are usually pretty casual at 60 beats per minute, you know, where everything's going really well. We're thinking clearly. All our fine motor skills, our gross, complex motor skills, they're all pretty good, right? But when the stress happens and you get that adrenaline dump and now you're at 90 beats per minute and your fine motor skills start to deteriorate a little bit and you're not thinking as clearly as you were before, and then we get up to 120 beats and now my complex motor skills are starting to go. I'm just like thinking, I'm doing things because things happen type of concept. And the good part, though, with that is that your gross motor skills are the best they've ever been at that moment. You're faster, you're stronger. If you're injured, you'll bleed less. So we want people to recognize some of these type of things that'll just happen naturally that we'll all have. we teach our police officers to expect this kind of stress response. When we especially recruit officers, and even officers like myself that have been on the force for 30 years, when we practice at the range, we put ourselves in stressful scenarios. The instructors will get our heart rate up just so we can get used to that type of feeling. I still have been doing this for a long time. If I get that real hot call on the radio, for that moment, I get that burst of adrenaline, that oh man. And then I know, hey, I know what I'm going to do. I've thought this through, and I recognize it's going to come. It's a natural adrenaline dump, and I kind of move forward with that. Use that adrenaline dump and change that emotion from like fear to aggression if you have to defend yourself, or if you have to barricade a door, or type of behavior. So it really works pretty good. And this is kind of like scripting and practicing where it really hits home. I was a sergeant the day of the 9/11 attack. I worked that day as a patrol sergeant. I went down to the Trade Center, and I saw firsthand how that impacted people's lives in that, right? Well, Rick Riscola, the man on this slide, he worked at the Trade Center when they had the 93 bombing. So there was an initial bombing in 1993. He worked at that company, and he didn't think the company was prepared. And he wanted to move his business to New Jersey. And the business bosses were like, no way, the financial capital of the world is New York City. We're not moving to Jersey. So he compromised, and he got them to let him to do drills and train and practice and script. So when 9/11 happened, the towers were on the north tower was hit first. He was in the south tower, and over the radio from the PA systems, they're like, hey, everything's okay, stay in your building. And he's like, no, we're getting out. This isn't good. He got 2,700 of his colleagues out of the other tower, and then it fell. He's credited with saving 2,700 lives because he practiced and he scripted and people bought into those concepts. So that's why what we do matters. It's not overly complicated to just spend a few minutes thinking about how we would react in an emergency. So, decisive moment, right? So we've deliberated, we know what we're doing, I made the decision, I'm going for that exit. When I go for it, I go for it. There's no hesitating. If we're defending and we have to engage somebody, we're not like gonna slap, we're gonna go as hard as we can. It's like, you know, fists of fury, it's whatever you gotta do. When you make the commitment, you commit. And this is, the perfect example is, who remembers the Miracle on the Hudson? Anyone? This is Sully Sullenberg's the recording from the cockpit with the tower. And just listen to how calm he is and how he goes through his checklist.
Cactus 1539 hit birds, so you lost thrust on both engines, returning back towards LaGuardia.
Okay, you need to return to LaGuardia. Turn left heading up 220.
220.
Tower, stop your departures, got emergency returning. It's 1529. He bird strike. He lost all engine. He lost the thrust in the engines. He's returning immediately.
Cactus 1529. Which engines?
He lost thrust in both engines. He said.
Got it.
Cactus 1529. We can get it for you. Do you want to try to land runway 13?
We're unable. We may end up in the Hudson.
All right, Cactus 1549. It's going to be left traffic to runway 31.
Unable.
Okay, what do you need to land? Cactus 1549. Runway 4 is available if you want to make left traffic to runway 4.
I'm not sure we can make any runway. What's over to our right? Anything in New Jersey? Maybe Teterboro?
Okay, yeah, off your right side is Teterboro Airport. Do you want to try to go to Teterboro?
Yes.
Teterboro, Empire, actually LaGuardia departure guy, emergency inbound. Cactus 1529, turn right 280, you can land runway 1 at Teterboro.
We can't do it.
Okay, which runway would you like at Teterboro?
We're going to be in the Hudson.
I'm sorry, say again, Cactus? Cactus 1549, radar contact is lost. You also got Newark Airport up at 2 o'clock in about 7 miles. Eagle Flight 4718, turn left heading 210.
210, 4718. I think he said he was going in the Hudson.
Do you notice how calm he was? And the air traffic controllers, bird strikes, lost thrust in both engines. He just went through his checklist. Okay, can't get it, no good. How about Teterboro? Yeah, let me try. Nah, it's no good. We're going in the Hudson. And that's kind of the same concept you got to apply. Like if you think you're going to go out that front door and that's not an option, okay, plan B, I'm going for that exit. And we're just committed. We try to be calm. We try to go through it like it's routine. You know, and if you do script and practice, and you can see the theme here, right? I keep talking about that. And situational awareness, knowing our surroundings, what you do will make a big difference in an emergency. So active shooter events, we like to have a definition, and it really is just attempted mass murder. There's no, like a robbery situation and the person just happened to be there. This is, and he couldn't get out when the police got there. This is someone that's just really trying to hurt people for no reason. You know, there's just nothing to it other than hurt and injure people. Kind of a profile mindset, some broadcasts we've seen recently in the stuff that they put stuff on Facebook Live or Twitter or some kind of website. So we do see some broadcasting, but there's no specific profile. Most are male. And just a slide just to kind of give you a connection to the location. You know, kind of 50-50 if you think about it. So that on an open campus like ours, you know, it makes us, we always want to be situationally aware. And this will just give you a kind of instant sense of where some of the shootings have been and the number of shot. And the data is obviously not up to date. We're like a year or two behind, I think, now. Right? And that's why this training is so important. We've seen that it started to increase, and we want to give you guys some skill set and some tools to deal with that increase. Slide kind of talking about the locations of attacks. So we can see that they're kind of all over the place, right? So number of deaths. This is an interesting slide to talk about, right? How quickly the police can respond and target availability. Again, that's why this training is so important. If we can get away from the shooter, if we can avoid the shooter, if we can prevent him from getting to where we are, and if we have to defend ourselves, those are those things we're talking about, how we can limit the number of deaths. The average response time for law enforcement in this country is 3 minutes to an active shooter event. Who thinks that's a long time? Right? I do. Who thinks that's a short time? Right? It depends. 3 minutes, if it's like a barking dog, is really pretty quick. 3 minutes, if it's an active shooter call, is kind of long. The reason that this training, and we try to train so many civilians, and you now will be the third freshman class that we've done. We've trained almost 11,000 plus people on campus, faculty, staff, people that work on campus in any type of activity, clubs, fraternities, sororities that have invited us to do the training for different groups. Because we know that the police are coming, but the incident's already started. So the people that are there are going to know it's happening before we do. The next slide is going to have simulated shots, so they're not real. It's just a sense that some people have never heard a gunshot before. So the next slide will have a You know, so we want people that have never, ever heard a gun fired to kind of just get a sense of what that would sound like, the echoing and stuff like that. And when we hear that, we don't want to deny. We want to get right to our deliberation, figure out the best plan that we can put in place, and implement it. This slide is Christian Anderson. She was a student at Virginia Tech, and she kind of talks about, and again, before all the training and resources were put into prevention and active shooter response, kind of how people reacted in that situation. Is it not going? No?
Maybe.
There it is. You know, it's his birthday. You can't laugh at him today. All right? He's trying his hardest. Well, we can talk about it. If she can't get it, we just won't do it. There it is. Forget it. All right, so I'll just tell you kind of basically what she talks about. So Christian's in her classroom, right? And the gunman comes, there's a shot fired, the teacher slams the door and says, call 911. Right? That's what we used to be taught to do when I was a kid. That was the first thing people said, call 911. And we've gotten away from that because in that minute or 30 seconds or 10 seconds, time would be better spent barricading that door, making sure that they can't get in, getting close to the door frame so that if the gunman does get in, there's some kind of countermeasures that you can take, right? So in her classroom, the shooter gets in, people are injured, he goes out, he comes back in because the students that were in that room didn't take any kind of countermeasures, didn't prevent him from coming back in. So he got to go into that room and another room twice. So what she talks about is how she played dead and how she says now that that was a terrible decision on her part. You know, hiding in hope is not an option because he was walking through the room injuring people that were already injured. And it just, she believes that this type of training, taking some kind of proactive measures, is the better way to go. I mean, we look at this slide here of hide and hope, and if you do that and the bad guy finds you, you have really limited options. You can't get out of that space. You can't jump up and defend yourself. You couldn't run away. You really couldn't do anything. And so that's why we don't think hide and hope. There's better options out there. So we teach avoid, deny, defend, right? So avoid, what does that mean? Leave as soon as you can. Know your exits. So if you're walking into an academic building and you're still outside and you hear what you believe to be gunshots from inside that building, don't go in. Run. Call us. Say, hey, I think I just heard shots fired in a particular building. I would rather respond to 100 false calls than somebody not call because they weren't sure, they didn't want to make that phone call. So call us, right? Consider your secondary exits, and that's what we talked about before. If we go up there and the incident's up by the control booth there, that's not where we want to go. We want to find another exit, whether it be here, these two. Maybe it's backstage. We get backstage there, and we try to find a place where we can secure ourselves if we're in that situation. So getting into deny, right? We have found that locking the door, as silly and simple as that seems, has prevented a lot of gunmen from getting into locations by just simply locking the door, because the gunman knows two things. People nowadays are not going to just sit around and wait for them to come in and create havoc and harm people. They're going to try to take countermeasures. They're going to lock the door, and the police department is coming. You will hear us coming. We will be coming with our lights and siren as loud as we can because we want you to know that we're on our way. We want the bad guy to know that we're on our way. You know, so we want everybody to know we're coming. So barricading the doors, right? Heavier is better, more. If a door opens inward, much easier to barricade, right? Door opens outward, it's harder. But we still want to barricade doors that open outward because of a number of things. A, you can be up there as he's trying to climb over the barricade, and you could be raining down on him with all kinds of punches and whatever you're going to do to defend yourself. Who in this room has fired a gun ever in their entire life, right? Okay, so what do we know that's really important? Sight alignment, trigger control. If somebody's trying to climb over that type of barricades, that's not a good thing for their sight alignment and trigger control. It gives you an advantage. So we want you to be able to do that type of stuff. I know, the Walmart video is kind of corny, right? And I heard you guys laugh, and that happens. But those things that they talked about, like with the belt, I was hoping you're paying attention, because when you see the belts on doors, we had a small stature woman want to try it. She got on a chair, tied off the door hinge with her belt, and we had one of our bigger police officers try to yank the door open, and it wouldn't open. And she's like, I'm a believer. You know, she never thought I could get up on that chair, tie my belt around it, and she's like, I could prevent somebody from getting into my room where I have 20 students working. And we're like, yeah, it's that simple. And everybody has a belt on them, you know, or we've seen women have tried to use their pocketbook strings and done it. You know, it works. Door jams. Anything that you have, you can use to deny that entry. So we talk about defending, right? And we're not expecting people, this is not a defensive tactics class. It's not the high training that my two detectives in the back go through, or Travis, or all the other guys in here, to defend ourselves and weapons retention. But there are things you can do to protect yourself, you know, and defend yourself. Working together collaboratively. If you can get up on that door, and once that person breaks the door plane, aggressively attack them, okay? You know, and one of the things, like on your floors and your halls, find out who has some skill sets. And it may be somebody that has martial arts training, right? That's a good thing to know. On, hey, this guy could do that, or this woman could do that. It may be that they're in a nursing program and they have really good medical skills. It could be someone that was a volunteer fireman, a Boy Scout, any of those type of that can do skill set, athletic training, so that if somebody did get hurt, they could help. So divide up your responsibilities when you're in your groups that you know that you meet with all the time. Kind of figure out what you would do. When I gave this for the RAs last year, it was interesting. I get feedback, and they talk about, hey, you know, when we had our RA meeting, we discussed, and one of the persons in that group has medical training. We said, hey, if something really bad happens, would you, yeah, and they're like, yeah, I'll be the person that would render aid. And they're like, well, we'd be the people that would try to get up by the front of the door and engage the shooter. Those type of things really make a big difference. So defending, right? I know as I stand here today and speak to you, and I'm really excited to do that. I hope you can tell that, right? If I was to be injured today, right now, I'm going to be okay. I really, really, truly, in my heart of hearts, know that. Because like they said in that video, as corny as that sounds, we stress that with our police officers every day. You're going to go home tonight. I'm going to go home tonight. I know if I'm injured, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to stay in the fight. And when you looked at Lieutenant Murphy, that was his concept. He knew his colleagues, to quote him, his brothers and sisters were coming because he heard the lights and sirens, and he wasn't going to let his family down. You guys all have families. You got to go home. That's the concept, and you got to know and believe in your heart of hearts that you're going to be okay if this event should happen. We'll talk about Virginia Tech really briefly, and this is a good slide to kind of just talk about where people did countermeasures and took some kind of action, and the number of people that were injured and hurt and killed, actually. In room 205, no one was injured or hurt, and the reason is the gunman never got in there. In room 204, the professor barricaded the door and had the students look for alternative exits, and they went out the window. And almost all of them escaped uninjured. And the professor lost his life, but he prevented a lot more loss of life. In some of the other rooms, the shooter got in, left, and came back. You know, so I know it's hard to say, hey, people are injured, but we have to barricade the door. And even the 911, if you're barricading the door, designate one of your friends. You call 911. We're barricading the door. You know, so work collectively and cooperatively. Go ahead. Go ahead. So this is like a flow chart of what we talked about, right? Attack starts, we look for our primary exits. If we can find them, we avoid. No, we deny. We look for other exits, kind of like we said in the scenario here for back doors and stuff. And if all else fails, we defend. When we arrive, it's going to be really chaotic, like the video said. You know, comply with our commands, help us. Don't have things in your hands. If an officer says don't move, even though you're the good guy. And a lot of footage you'll see officers pulling the crowd in large gatherings because there's just so many people, and they're trying to just manage that incident. We're really lucky at Ball State. In some communities, and especially prior to when this was created, there was a delay in medical responding. Ambulances back in the day when I was a police officer would stage and wait till the incident was basically done. We don't do that here. We've trained with Delaware County EMS, the Muncie Police Department, the Sheriff's Department. Our medical people are coming in right behind us. So if Corporal Stevens and I are engaging a threat on the second floor and there are injured people on the first floor, and Lieutenant Foster and Detective Baconi are teamed up next, they're going to bring in EMS people right behind them while we're still operating upstairs to deal with injured people, you know? And that's a hard thing for me as a police officer to say, because I've always wanted to save people. That's why we take this job. But we're going to go by injured people initially until we can stop the threat, because we know that that threat will continue until that threat is stopped. And that's a hard thing for us. You know, you can expect some personal trauma, and a counseling center on this campus is really robust, would help and manage that part of it. We know this is going to be a traumatic event, but we know this training is helpful, hopefully, and probably won't ever happen. But we want you to be prepared. We want our students and faculty and staff to have the skill set and some tools in their toolkit to avoid, to deny, to defend, and to put those skills in play. And we don't name the shooters. We don't want to give them any notoriety. So I'm almost done, so I know I'm getting you out of here early, so I should get some applause for that, right? You know, everybody likes to get out early. Right, thank you. So here is my public safety advisory, right? Here it is, my infomercial about the police department. Okay, I got one more thing to say. This police department is really committed to your success. We are committed to student success. We are committed to student engagement. I want you to do lunch with a cop. I want you to invite us to the fun stuff. I want to have the opportunity to get to know our students and so do our officers. I don't want to ever convince anybody to like the police. You'll make your own decisions. I just ask that you see me and that I see you and that we give each other an opportunity to get to know each other. I want you to have a great semester. Stay safe. Chirp, chirp. I think that went all right.
Yeah.
No?
Freaking video worked.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I'm still live. An hour. Yeah, perfect.